Hey, live on Pat Soundbites Unplugged podcast in conjunction with WBXO Classic Rock Radio. Keeping new music alive is what I do. And boy, oh my goodness, I can't get the smile off my face. It's not every day. I got rock legends on the show. How about even a rock pioneer on the show? I mean, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, producer, and overall a wonderful human being that I got a chance to meet and introduce at Daryl's house, the amazing Mr. Edgar Winter in the house. How are you, Edgar? Great to see you.
Hey, Pat, are you ready to rock and roll?
Oh, my goodness. I've been ready to rock and roll the minute Elizabeth said, yeah, he's available. Let's do this. My goodness, Edgar. We're talking today, Brother Johnny. This album, to me, should be probably blues rock album of the year. We lost the great Brother Johnny Winter in 2014. I mean, my goodness, all time giant blues guitar player. And, if anybody's going to do a tribute album, by all means, why not yourself? And boy, did you take the bull by the horns and assemble this dream team all-star guitar hero lineup that just hits it out of the park. And I need to mention before we hit the record button, I was online looking at Facebook, and Quarto Valley Records, which released the album, the great Quarto Valley Records, because I love what they do, released the album on April 15th. And they said today that the week of April 30th, this album is #1 on the Billboard Blues album charts. So congratulations, my friend. And certainly well deserved. My goodness, Edgar, you hit it out of the park.
Well, my heart is just overflowing with joy and gratitude. And it means the world to me to have made this record. It was something that I absolutely had to do. And strangely enough, I was very much against doing this in the beginning. Shortly after Johnny's death, I had numerous offers, and that's what they felt. They felt like deal offers. It was just people sensing a business opportunity, and all that aside, I was devastated. I was not emotionally ready to make the record. And it was my lovely wife, Monique, to whom I've been so happily and blissfully married now for 43 years. We just had our anniversary. Not bad for rock and roll.
Not bad.
and in California, no less. So
congratulations to you and Monique.
Thank you.
Keep rocking.
Thank you. But she convinced me. She said, well, you always speak of how Johnny's your all-time musical hero and you wouldn't be where you are were it not for him. Well, here's your opportunity to acknowledge that. And, you owe that to yourself and to Johnny and to the world. And she could not have been more right in all of that. And, I thank her for giving me the strength and courage and the love and support to make the record. The other person two people, Ross Hogarth, who was started out as the engineer and mixer, but Ross was just invaluable. He loves Johnny's music as much as I do. He played guitar and drums, and he had so many suggestions for people. It just would not be the album it is without Ross. He suggested some people that I was unaware of, like David Grissom, who is a fellow Texan and great guitarist, who played on Johnny B. Goode and I'm Yours and I'm Hers, along with Billy Gibbons and Derek Trucks. He suggested John McFee from the Doobie Brothers to be play the slide on Highway 61. And there were just numerous occasions that Taylor Hawkins, he suggested Taylor for Guess I'll Go Away. And to me, that stands out as the hardest rocking, highest energy song on the record, and an example of Johnny's rock writing that I think was incredible. And we wanted a younger, more aggressive approach to the vocal, and Ross suggested Taylor, and I'm a huge Foo Fighters fan. I said, man, that would be perfect. And he was just so sincere, so humble, and so I tried to open a business discussion with him, and he would not hear of it. He just said, I love this song, I love Johnny, I just want to get out there and rock. And man, rock he did. And it was just such an honor to have him on. And that's the way this album was. It was like a journey that I set out on without really knowing the destination. And I said, I'm going to just take this road where it leads. And I started with a lot of my longtime friends, but got to meet so many people along the way that I had never had the opportunity to play with. Billy Gibbons, Warren Haynes, Derek Trucks. I got Michael McDonald to sing on the song "Stranger," which is a beautiful ballad and one of my all-time favorite Johnny songs. Very uncharacteristic. It sort of reveals a vulnerable, sensitive side to Johnny. And of course, on there, I had asked Joe Walsh. Joe and I go way back, and Joe, when he was in the James Gang, we used to play shows together. And I asked him to play Johnny Be Good, and he sang it with me. And Johnny Be Good is one of those songs that you'd think, well, this is so obvious. Johnny Winter tribute, Johnny Be Good. But that song has a very personal significance. When we were just kids, our first band was Johnny and the Jammers, and there was a local talent contest. This was, I guess, Johnny was 15, so I must have been 12. And Johnny Be Good was our hottest song. And so we entered that contest and played that song and won. And first prize is you get to make your very own record. So if it weren't for Johnny Be Good, who knows? That's really what launched our career. So I wanted to sing it the way I used to sing it with Johnny. And I said, well, Joe would be the perfect guy. And so he agreed to sing it, but he wanted to play on something else. He said, well, he said traditional Chuck Berry. I don't know what I can bring to that. And surprisingly, he picked this beautiful ballad, because I think of Joe as a rocker. I think he picks that up tempo, and then he picked Stranger and just did a beautiful job. And then of course, I knew Ringo, having played in the All-Star Band, and I had hoped that I might talk Ringo into playing on something on the album, but I didn't know what. And when Joe picked Stranger, I thought, well, Ringo, all of those patented, those Ringo fills, dum, 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 that ballad has all that space that would give him the opportunity to put all of those in. And for those of you unaware, Ringo is married to the lovely Barbara Bach, and Barbara's sister, Marjorie, is married to Joe Walsh. So they're brothers-in-law. And I thought, oh, how cool that might entice Ringo to play on the track, since Joe is already on it. It'd be great to have them both. So I finally got up the nerve to ask Ringo, and he said, Edgar, I'll do it for you. And it just touched
peace and love, man.
Yeah, peace and love. And I don't imagine he plays on that many people's records. And it's just such an honor to have. I'm so in awe of the Beatles and love Ringo. He's not only a great drummer, but just a great human being, a great person. He's so spontaneous and natural and just right there in the moment. He has really very quick-witted, sharp-tongued at times, but always in the spirit of fun, and just having him on there. And another example of I didn't want to just do the first thing I thought was do I want just to do a straight ahead blues record as you know, a tribute to Johnny's great legacy, or more of a personal album, a dedication to Johnny from his brother, and for it to reflect some of the songs that are my own particular personal favorites. And I thought it really
And it should.
you know, and I think if I'd just done it straight ahead, I don't think Johnny would have, I think he would have said, hey man, why all of a sudden you're trying to sound exactly like me and just do everything exactly the way. Johnny
Right.
always encouraged me to follow my heart. You know, like I love jazz and classical, and it's not the album Johnny would have made, but I think it is the album he would have wanted me to make for him. And I didn't want to just pick the usual suspects. I wanted a sort of a more varied cast of characters, you know. So I think that people, like, you wouldn't necessarily expect Michael
Phil X.
McDonald and
I mean, you got
Phil X. Now there
Phil
you go.
X. I'm like,
Phil X.
whoa,
Phil X.
where'd that come from? What a great guitar player.
Man, a madman. And I wasn't that familiar. That was Ross's suggestion again. And he's also, I mean, he had so many suggestions. Of course, he did the Taj Mo album with Taj Mahal and Keb Mo. And the song that I wrote, Lone Star Blues, he just did such an incredible, he took that song, he tore it down and started from scratch and played all the instruments. And that's one of the two songs, the original songs that I wrote specifically for the album, because I knew the first thing I did was pick the songs. I said, well, it's got to have Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo and Alive and Well, and songs that Johnny just are associated with Johnny, like Jumpin' Jack Flash and Highway 61, and the songs that, like Meantown Blues and I'm Yours and I'm Hers, great Johnny Winter, hardcore Johnny Winter songs. And man, Joe Bonamassa just killed on Meantown and Self-Destructive Blues, one of my favorite Johnny shuffles. But the album, it was just such a joy, and it's such an uplifting experience, and just I'm so happy to have made the record, and it was very cathartic, cleansing and healing to me, and I actually feel closer to Johnny in a way as never before, having made the record. And I think if you even if you're not familiar with Johnny, if you love the blues, just love music. And I tried to make it an album not just a tribute to Johnny, but to the blues, and a great guitar record. And I didn't ever encourage anybody to try to sound like Johnny. I just wanted these artists to play the songs that they felt passionately about doing. And I never asked the one case in which I asked Joe to do Johnny Be Good and he picked something else, but I let everybody pick their own songs. And it, I think that's what makes it really special, is the people that are on the record are the people who really wanted to be on it and playing the songs they wanted to play. So man,
it's a man. I got to tell you, my favorite, and I've listened to it a bunch of times already, is Lone Star Blues. I mean, I think it's my favorite song on the album. And I took it, Edgar, as maybe like a double meaning. I mean, Lone Star with Texas, but does it tell you the type? I'm a lyric guy. I like to close my eyes and try to understand it. And I realize it's in the interpretation of the listener. It might not be exactly what the songwriter was writing about. It could be a broken relationship, and somebody says, no, it was about my dog. But I took it as maybe, you're describing something about, Johnny being somewhat of a loner, maybe out there, that maybe as an artist and a superstar, maybe he felt a little bit not that way. I don't know. That's what I kind of thought. And then I read it, I'm like, Lone Star. Well, that makes sense. Texas. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Was I right with that, Edgar?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. The story behind that song goes way back to childhood. And one of the ways in which Johnny and I are different, we both love music and we grew up playing together. Johnny loved the traditional acoustic Delta blues, the people like Muddy Waters and Little Walter and Howlin' Wolf, John Lee Hooker, and I gravitated more toward urban style blues like B.B. King, Ray Charles, Bobby Blue Bland. And the other difference was that ever since I can remember, Johnny had the drive and ambition and determination. He was going to be a star. And I just loved music in and of itself, the beauty of chords, harmony, rhythm. So Johnny was the extrovert and I was the introvert. He reached out to the world with his music. And for me, it was more a journey within, a journey of self-discovery. But after having worked his whole life to achieve that goal and having had seemingly everything he dreamed of, money, fame, adoring fans, recognition, it wasn't what he expected. It was one of those, be careful what you wish for. And I remember him saying, Edgar, I never thought it would be like this. I feel sometimes just so disconnected, and
Wow.
it's as though I've become invisible. Like there's this image of me that has taken over my life. I don't know who to talk to, who to trust, and I feel like nobody really knows who I am. And I tried to write that song. That was a difficult period of adjustment for Johnny, and he went through that, and he got through that, and really came to love and appreciate. He loved his fans, and his career really meant the world to him. But he did go through that rough period, and you're spot on. You're exactly right in terms of. I tried to write that song because it was something that Johnny felt deeply and never really expressed fully in his writing. It's a little bit there in Guess I'll Go Away, which he wrote around the time he went to rehab the first time. And that one is about the lure of sex, the danger of drugs, and love of rock and roll. But for Lone Star, I said, no, I have to get authentic blues guy, and I prevailed on Ross to ask Keb Mo, because knowing he had done the Taj Mo album with Taj Mahal, and I said, man, Keb Mo would just be the perfect guy. So he set up a phone conversation, and I explained the album and I explained the song to Keb Mo, and he just did exactly what I hoped. He broke that song down, started from scratch. He put all the instruments on and turned it into a duet. And it's like, it completely transformed the song. When he comes in, it sounds like the Lone Star Blues. It's like, it introduces this note of compassion and sincerity. It's like he's the old blues man telling the young confused guy, yeah, things can get tough, but it's going to be all right. And that just touched my heart, the way he transformed that song. And I thank you, Keb Mo. I love you. Thank you for doing that. But it's one of my favorites as well.
I recall when Johnny was going through, almost at the end of his life, I could see him signing autographs, but it was like he he couldn't trust people. Obviously, he had bad management, people stealing money. He got the drugs and everything. And I think it just, after a while, it just weighed on him that he wasn't, I think in his mind, he knew that there are people that just love him for everything. Yeah. But then, in the other side of the mind, I'm thinking he's like on his own little island. Who do I trust? What do I want to be? Why am I here? Everything that I've ever seen, he signed, he took pictures, but I think there was something about it that it just took him. I said, man, he just seems like a loner. He's like not the happy guy with all the success that he's had. I'm like,
Well,
and that's what I get out of the song,
that's
honestly.
you got you got the full intention of it. And Johnny he had a depth and scope that was not only exhibited in his music, but just as a person. He was a very deep and complex person. And the whole idea, like the fame and celebrity are so shiny and attractive. And you can't help but you think, well, how could you just not be so joyously grateful and thankful for everything that you have? But it's just something that you can't understand unless you've been through it. And it like you were expressing it very nearly the same way that Johnny expressed it to me. And I went through it myself. But see, I didn't have that expectation that I think all of his hopes, he just felt like, oh, when this happens, everything's going to be perfect and I'm going to be joyously happy and I'm going to have love and approval and respect. And it turned out to feel differently than he had imagined. But at the same time, I don't want to paint that picture, because he loved it. He it's something that he was so proud of, and that he worked his whole life to achieve. And it was it's like a love-hate thing, and it's a difficult thing to describe, but I tried to put it into that song, and I'm glad that you seem to get it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you said you were the introvert and he was the extrovert. He's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And like you said, be careful what you wish for. And then, whoa, wait a minute. I can't even go out of the house. But put a guitar on him and put him on stage. No, not a problem. Take him off stage, put him in the dressing room, get him home, or, this isn't what I really was looking for. So, but I'm sure inside, yeah, like you said, he made it. And he said, he made it. And he had fans and people that loved him worldwide. It's like, wow. But you can just see, and I'm happy about that. Yeah, I got a bigger smile on my face that I really sucked that song in and really like, wow. And the line is a beautiful song too. I know that's one of the other original, and just beautifully done, Edgar, with the piano and everything. And it was like a perfect fitting. When you put this on, you could just get in the car, and I just like the flow of the album. And I try to close my eyes and go, I want to guess who the guitarist is. Is that Joe? Is that Billy? Is that, to try to get, I always say, I pinch myself, Edgar, because I found my niche of playing new music, and I became friends with the great Billy F. Gibbons. And the first time I met Billy, he's like, you do what? I said, look, I played the hits all my life, but I play your solo stuff. And he took his glasses off. He says, we got to make some noise. Next time I'm in New York, you and I gotta, and we've hit it off greatly. And Billy said, look, character, Billy says, look, I know you're a rock guy, but you got to go into the blues. You really trust me. And he gave me a bunch of albums to look into and play and listen to. And he opened my eyes completely. And I would say to Billy, and I've had dinner with, I'll tell you my Joe Walsh story. I had dinner with Joe. And I always say, how do you describe your tone? Because do you get it? It's unique. And, Billy's like, well, it all depends on the song. It all comes out on the feel. I talked to Eric Johnson, another great guitar slinger from Texas. They all come from Texas. And Eric is like, it's hard to describe. But I said, let me just close my eyes and try to figure out who's who here. But it's great. My Joe Walsh story, I had dinner with Joe before a show that I was promoting. And he says, hey, by the way, you want to meet my brother-in-law? And I'm like, Joe, I don't even know who you are. And he says, that guy, he played on that band. He's a drummer. And I'm like, and then he says, Ringo Starr. And I drop my fork. I go, who? And he told me about his wife and Barbara. And he
Yeah,
got me
Barbara
tickets.
and
He got me tickets to Foxwoods, and I got to see the amazing Ringo Starr All-Star Band, which you're getting ready to jump on tour in May. And hopefully I get down to New York City at the Beacon Theater, June 6th, 7th, and 8th. Got to talk to Elizabeth to see if she can hook me up to
oh
see you
yeah, she'll put
guys.
you on the guest list. We'll,
Oh my goodness. I'm
definitely stop
so
by and
happy.
say hello. Yeah.
So happy to see you on the Ringo Starr All-Star Band. And I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, Joe, what is the Ringo Starr All-Star? He goes, you're going to go and have a great time. And I loved it. It was just phenomenal. So it's on my to-do list for Edgar in June to say hello to you again and
right,
everybody else that's out there. Who really knocked you out that did the recording? You know, that you maybe, like I mentioned, Phil X, you didn't know and said, man, I mean, thank God for Ross to say, how about this one? How about that one? Was there one in particular that really you said, man, I would have never guessed this in a million years?
Well, the biggest surprise was Phil X for me, because Bon Jovi, I think of as pop rock.
Yes.
But I just had no idea that Phil, having replaced Richie Sambora, I thought he'd be kind of a similar player, but he's very deep and just so I don't know how to unrestrained. He's just like a madman, and just like he was the biggest surprise. But I think the person that came closest, I didn't really want to make I didn't want to make the typical tribute album, and I didn't want to make a nostalgia album, and I didn't want to particularly make a sound alike album.
Right.
I didn't try to encourage anybody to play or sound like Johnny, but Joe Bonamassa, of all of the people that played, I think came the closest to channeling Johnny. And he, like, when I spoke to him on the phone, we'd played shows together, but I never really sat down and had a lengthy conversation with him. But we started discussing song lists. And when I got to Self-Destructive Blues, he said, oh, wow, you're really going to do Self-Destructive? That's my favorite Johnny Winter song. That's the first Johnny song I learned, and I played it with my band. And he came in with a Firebird and an old Fender Bassman amp, exact same rig that Johnny had. When he started to play that song, I just closed my eyes, and I swear it felt like Johnny was in the room, his presence. Johnny, the thing that set him apart to me, he had this relentless kind of energy. And I used to call him the Coltrane of blues rock. And if you're familiar with John Coltrane's playing, it was like an endlessly inventive stream of consciousness, and he had the ability to extend himself as a soloist and just keep building in intensity. And that's the way Johnny was jamming in rock and roll, and Joe really captured that. And then I didn't know who. The one song that I really did want to be authentic was Meantown Blues, the other song that Joe ended up playing on. And he did such an incredible job with Self-Destructive Blues. And I asked him, because I knew that Joe played slide, but I didn't know how amazing he is as a slide player as well. And he said, that's going to be a challenge. He said, let me work. He took a few weeks, to mess around with it. And man, he came in the middle of the session. He said, there's something about it, just doesn't have the same weight. He went out and he stopped the session, went out and bought a thumb pick. Johnny plays with a thumb pick, much heavier plastic. The typical guitar pick is pretty thin. And man, I mean, that's just an example of how deeply I've never had anybody that got as deeply into Johnny's music other than myself as Joe did. But everybody just, there are such incredible performances. And I have to, like, I don't usually listen to my own records, but I tell you, I can listen to this one, and it's just such an amazing journey, such a trip. It has so many incredible performances on it. It's almost like I can't imagine that it's actually my album. It's like Johnny's album, and I'm just another guest on it. But in other ways, it's so much an Edgar. It's so personal, and I think that's one of the things that, because I have very eclectic taste, and my albums tend to be kind of all over the place. This album is because it's a dedication to Johnny. It is really focused, and I think makes it so personal and so real. So,
well, that's what makes, and that's why it really had to come from you. You know, there could be a lot of other artists that says, I'm going to do a tribute album and just do Johnny and do covers. But when it comes from you, you have that connection that nobody else ever has. You besides your brother, you understood every nook and cranny that he dealt with, and how he operated. And, you know, I think you've told me, we talked a couple of times, even just being albino, you know, it's like you're sticking out, you know,
yeah.
And you're not like the norm. And, you know, you guys got through all that. Like, you know, kids make fun of people today over stupid stuff. But here, you know, Johnny, and you successfully pushed that all by you and said, hey, we're rockers and we're going to do this and have a nice day. What I love more, I think, the more I think about it, Edgar, is that this really opens up a whole new generation of an audience, that for the folks that never got to see Johnny perform live, or doesn't really renaissance with Johnny's music, this puts the cherry on top for anybody that loves blues or rock, or for a younger person, younger than us dinosaurs here, that goes, wow, you know, 'cause I'm really excited when I see these new bands that are out there that are trying to keep the rock going, and I look at these young ladies that are doing such a tremendous job in the blues industry of that end of it. And that just puts a bigger smile on my face to see people. I mean, I've talked to, I don't know if it was Billy or somebody I talked to, and they said, you know, you can't get a guitar because with the COVID and the lockdown, people were buying guitars and instruments left and right. And I said, and what is wrong with that? That's a great thing to hear, that people are, you know, looking at music. You know, I said to somebody the other day, I don't even put on the news. It's so depressing to see what's going on in Ukraine. And I go, you know, I could go see Edgar Winter and Johnny Winter in a stadium, and 100,000 strangers, and for 2 hours, we're having the greatest time of our lives. And it don't matter what political, what race, what nothing. We're high-fiving, we're jumping, we're singing back. And then at the conclusion, we all walk out with a smile on our face. And we're a bunch of strangers, but we're a family for those 2 hours. And why can't that just expand throughout the world? I mean, it just, I don't know, Edgar, it just drives me crazy.
Yeah. That you've just said exactly, expressed my feelings about music, and I believe that life is a spiritual quest, and that's the thing about music, is that when you're playing it or you're listening to a great performance, you're transported. It has the ability to lift you out of yourself. And for that moment in time, all your cares and worries are forgotten, and you're just totally immersed in that moment. And that connection, that when it happens, when you're performing or out in the audience listening, in that zone, it's just a beautiful spiritual feeling to be a part of something bigger. And that's what I experienced at Woodstock, which is what changed my life. The way I thought about music, the whole thing being set against the social backdrop of civil rights and the peace movement. And when I got on that stage, and I'll never forget this moment, I was looking out over this endless sea of humanity, and it it was a transfiguring moment, and I realized that music was so much more than just artistic beauty, that it has the power to reach out and unite people, to bring them together in a way that I had really never considered before. And that's when I started to think more what it would be like to be an artist rather than just a musician. And I had escaped into that private world for so many years, and it was Woodstock that brought me out of that. And the Beatles, I think, exemplify that. Ringo being such a heartfelt advocate and spokesman for peace and love. The Beatles, they changed the mindset of an entire generation, and they brought about a revolution without having to fire a shot, because it was a revolution of the mind, of the heart, of the spirit. To me, they represented freedom, and that's what I loved about the rock of the 70s, is that sense of freedom. And I think we're all tempted to feel like the time in which we came up was somehow special. But I really do believe there are two golden eras in the music, 40s and 50s for big band jazz and swing, and the 60s and 70s for rock. And to me, they were unparalleled. And I tried to make this record like one of those records. And I thought on many times, maybe I'm making too much a musician's album, because there's a lot of jamming on the record, but that's what Johnny did, and it wouldn't be an honest record. It would, if it weren't for that. So but everything that you've said, you really get this album. And I'm glad that somebody out there, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you and talk about it, because I remember when we were kids, you were talking about being albino, and we had a different sort of bond and mindset that we shared, that was unique and different. But Johnny, after becoming famous, I remember this time we were sitting up in the treehouse that our dad built for us back in our backyard, and Johnny was looking up through the branches, and he had this faraway look, and he said, I'm going to make it one day, and you may not believe it, but you will too. And don't forget this day. Remember what I said. And I still do. And what stuck in my mind was, like, no matter how much time goes by, how old I get, how far away from home I end up, there's going to be one person in this world that will know what I went through and how I feel in life, and that person will be my brother Johnny. So in that spirit, with that brotherly bond that we shared, is what I tried to express in this album. And I hope that it will inspire people to go back and check out Johnny's early catalog. He deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I hope that'll happen.
Everybody, look, that's a whole different headache of mine, because as much as I get it, I'm also, that's just so political anymore, Edgar, to me. The minute it became a TV network thing, I mean, they have the fan vote, and all of us can vote, millions and millions to vote for Johnny Winter, and somebody goes, yeah, no, we're going to do it this way. So that's a turn off for me. I would be happy if they changed it and said they're the Music Hall of Fame. That would make me a little bit happier. But then they got to put in so many people that is so deserving. I mean, how many millions of records and platinum records do you have to sell? I mean, artists today, I look at Vanilla Fudge, Carmine Abuse. Carmine's like, what do we got to do? I said, Carmine, forget about it. It doesn't matter. You know what you achieved in your accomplishments in your heart. If I want to see David Bowie's Spaceman outfit, I could go to the Hard Rock Cafe and see it hanging up in the restaurant while I have my meal. I mean, I'm not trying to shoot down Cleveland and the Rock, but that just makes me sick when a guy like John, like your brother, is not in the Hall of Fame. It doesn't make any sense to me. But you did a tremendous job, Brother Edgar, and I'm happy that I'm able, because in our radio station, and I'm the program director, we make our own playlist and we play what we want. So keeping new music alive for this guy is not a problem. And Lone Star Blues and a lot of these tracks are going to make their way. And if people don't have this album, I don't know what you are waiting for. To me, it's definitely the blues rock album of the year, hands down. And no disrespect to a lot of great blues. There's a lot of great music out there, but boy, you hit the ball out of the park, and you put a big smile on my face. And
Wow,
I can't thank you enough for this wonderful conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have, my friend.
To the max. I think a lot of all of these interviewers, I've been doing many of these, and as I said, you it really seems to have touched your heart, and you get it, and that's exactly what I hope that it will be for all the people. And I just want to thank all of our fans that have followed my career as well as my brother Johnny's throughout all of these years. We love you all, and we could not have done it without you. And it's meant the world to us to be able to do what we most love and see you all out there rocking and having a great time. So I hope to see some of you out there on that long and grinding road this summer with Ringo and his all-star band. And until that time, as Johnny and I have always said, don't forget to keep on rocking.
There you go. Go to Ringo Starr All-Star Band. Well, you go to EdgarWinter.com and check out all the dates, and you can follow Edgar and see where Edgar is playing on the Ringo Starr All-Star Band. And you can go to Edgar or Quarto Valley Records and buy the album, because you know what? Spotify is nice, but I'm a dinosaur. I gotta have it in my hand. And Edgar doesn't sign Spotify. He signs the album. He can sign the CD. Can't sign Spotify. Come on. 1,000 downloads and the guy makes $1.50. Get out of here. Not for me. Edgar, all the best, man. Safe travels and tremendous job.
Well, thank you. And you just reminded me, I want to thank Bruce Quarto, the president of Quarto Valley Records. He wanted to make this record for all the right reasons. And he actually suggested Bobby Rush to be on Mojo. And Ross brought up the fact, oh, you got to have something by Muddy on there. And that was just perfect. And thank you, Bruce. It's, a pleasure to be on the label. And, he was the guy that was like sitting in the beanbag chair and going through all the albums and reading the liner notes. And I'm just going to hold this up this is the vinyl cover, which is a 3D holographic,
oh, wow, look at that
image that shifts back. And it's really magical when you actually hold it. The glare of my computer screen is on.
I can see it really well. It was good.
But once again, one of my ideas, and there's also a 32-page booklet that includes liner notes that tell the whole story of the making of the album, a lot of things about the sessions and all the great.
And where can we purchase it, Edgar? And where can we go and
the vinyl won't be out until mid-June, so hopefully it'll be out before while I'm on tour with Ringo, and we're doing a second tour in September toward the end of the year. So it will be out, but vinyl is the plants are so backed up. We had hoped that everything would come out at the same time, but it's very difficult to get vinyl these days, and the COVID has just sort of disrupted all the normal supply lines of everything. But that package to me, I mean, I've never invested so much of myself in an album, not only from the music, but designing the cover, writing the liner notes. I did 3 single covers. It was, I actually discovered things that I didn't know, I never thought of myself as having any talent in the visual arts, but it was all for Johnny and my wife, Monique, and the family, the Winter family. And I hope it will serve, to perpetuate the Winter name and just make people aware of how great Johnny was and go back. Listen to all this stuff. So, my pleasure to be on. And peace and love.
Certainly, peace and love, Edgar. It certainly will live on. He might not be here physically, but he is in spirit. And as we always say, the music lives on forever. So great job. Hey, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm pitching myself hanging out with this guy for a good 40 minutes, my friend. I can call him my friend, Mr. Edgar Winter, right here on Pat Soundbites Unplugged podcast and WBXO Radio. We are classic rock and we are redefined. Go get the album today.